Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll call the meeting of the Common Council to order for the October 21st meeting. Please call the roll.
Councillor Olson. Here. Councillor Fennessy. Here. Councillor Bender. Here. Councillor Sweeney. Here. Councillor McDonald. Here. Councillor Mazzolia. Here. Councillor Finsland. Here. Councillor Herrick. Here. Councillor Dennis Dahlbeck. Here. And Councillor Esther Dahlbeck. Here.
Recognizing a quorum, I'll ask for the consideration of the minutes for the meeting of October 7th. Heard a motion in multiple seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 5.1 is a resolution introduced by the Plan Commission to vacate two streets located between lots 5 and 6, Block 500, lots 5 and 6, Block 501, and lots 5 and 6, Block 502.
For the motion and second, I'll call for a public hearing and ask those that wish to speak for or against to do so now. For the second time, those that wish to speak for or against to do so now. And for the third and final time, those that wish to speak for or against may do so now. Hearing none, I'll call the public hearing to close and ask the pleasure. We have a motion on the floor. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
Item 5.2 is a resolution introduced by the Community Development Division to approve the CDBG 2015 Action Plan, authorizing staff to submit plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Once again, I'll call for a public hearing and ask those to wish to speak for or against to do so now. Those that wish to speak for or against may do so now. And for the third and final time, those that wish to speak for or against may do so now. Hearing none, I'll call the public hearing to a close and ask the pleasure of the council.
Second.
For the motion and second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 5.3 is the 2015 General Fund budget, operating budget public hearing.
Once again, I'll ask for a call for a public hearing, and I'll ask those that wish to speak for or against to do so now. For the second time, those that wish to speak for or against may do so now. For the third and final time, those that wish to speak for or against may do so now. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the public hearing to a close and ask the pleasure of the council. For the motion and second to approve, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Prior to the consent agenda, we're asking for a motion to move up item 10.2 and 10.3. Those are the resolutions regarding the general obligation bonds.
For the motion and second to move as stated, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 10.2 is an initial resolution of the City of Superior relating to the issuance of general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $3,870,000 for the 2015 street improvements.
What is the pleasure?
Motion approved. Second.
For the motion and second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried.
Item 10.3 is a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation street improvement bonds, Series 2015A.
For the motion and second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
We are also recommending, prior to the consent agenda, to move up number 8.1. That is the item under the business by Mayor Carlson Detman Consulting, presenting the market data results.
Move that to wherever. Right now.
Okay.
Motion and second on the floor. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay, I'm going to reread it again. Carlson Detman Consulting presenting market data results relating to the compensation study and request and direction of market placement and pay plan options.
I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Carlson, this Human Resource Director, and the Finance Director.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the consideration consideration of what we're talking about.
Oh, turn your mic on, Jack.
Thank you for moving the item up. I have got a bit of a drive yet tonight, and I won't need too much of your time, but I have a couple of important questions for you. We're not asking you to approve any pay plans tonight. Expectation is that if things go according to plan, we should have a pay plan in front of you for consideration at the November 18th meeting. We're nearing the finish line. We have done all our job analysis, done our market measurement, evaluated all the job content. The document that was included in your packet is a brief summary of the market results. And since there were some questions raised when I did the initial presentation about what would be the relevant markets, I wanted to give you three different looks at the market data. The way we do our work, just to review, is this pay plan covers a little over 200 employees and over 100 job classifications. We don't try to match every job. That's a difficult thing to do because jobs have unique properties. We try to match a number of benchmark jobs, and in your case, we were able to match approximately 50% of the job classifications, and they cover 50% of the employees, which is a good practice in our industry. And they cover the hierarchy of jobs from top to bottom, so we have a good representative sample across the pay plan, if you will. The basic finding is that no matter which set of comparables we use, whether it's all cities or all public sector, with or without the private sector, the numbers don't vary much in terms of the overall market index. Now, there'd be some variance by position. And so I'm comfortable as your consultant utilizing any one of the three. If you'll recall, when I was before you earlier, I said there are three major policy questions we need your input on in order to bring a pay plan forward. Question number one is, well, who are we going to compare ourselves to? And so this document is the reflection of those results. Essentially, and it's measuring current pay of employees to current pay of employees within the market that we measured. And we had a fairly substantial number of survey participants, both in our custom survey and in the private sector draw as well. So we've got a really good sample to draw from, and essentially the conclusion is that you're pretty much on market. I think that's attributable to the fact that you've made a number of changes already in terms of adjustments, and you have money set aside to do additional adjustments that may be deemed necessary. So, answer to policy question number one, we'd like to hear that tonight. I can bring you three different pay plans based upon the three policy choices, but we're going to drop some trees when we do that. So if you can pick one, or you can ask us to simply recommend one, I'd be happy to do that as well. We can go either way. The second policy question is, so having decided that, where do you want to position yourself in the market? Do you want to be a high payer? Do you want to be above market? Do you want to match the market, or do you want to be below market? My judgment in looking at your employment circumstances is I don't think you'd want to be below. I think that would present a real problem. Markets are picking up. The market we're looking at today is not the market we were looking at 2 years ago. Several things are happening. Skilled positions are becoming in shorter supply. Lesser skilled jobs also are picking up because construction's picking up. There's this big sound coming out of the Twin Cities. People are being drawn there. Folks are going out for mining in South Dakota and North Dakota. This general tier has picked up some speed. And in talking with human resources, we know that our perception is that it's becoming somewhat more difficult to recruit people. Now, as a city, your practice historically has been to promote from within. You tend to hire down towards the bottom of the pay plan, get people who are qualified, you promote them up, they end up in supervision and so on and so forth. Some jobs, skilled jobs, you have to go to the outside and bring people in at the professional level, or skilled sewage treatment plant operators, that type of thing. mechanics, etc. And so I think it is at least having a conversation about whether we ought to position you a little more highly in the marketplace. I don't think we had to go nuts about it, but 5%, 10%, something like that, either is worth considering now or adopting a policy of matching the market with the understanding you'd better review it again based upon your experience over the next year. I don't think you can take your eye off the ball. It's definitely changing. It's changing all over the state. So that's question number 2. From a policy standpoint, where do you want to position yourself? And then question number 3 is, so what kind of pay plan do you want? And really there are 2 basic choices. Do you want a pay plan that is the more traditional, step-oriented plan where you progress through the pay plan based upon experience and your performance meeting expectations for the job? You should never move based upon just time, in my opinion. Or do you want a more variable plan that says the size of my pay increase is based upon my relative performance relative to yours? My judgment is you're not ready for the latter. You got some more. I'm not saying you shouldn't go there. And I would suggest that the culture is changing fairly substantially, even in the public sector. I counted them up because I had a speech to do last week. As a firm, we've done 47 pay plans since Act 10 in the state of Wisconsin. We've got 9 more in the mill right now. A little over half have a performance component to them in terms of variable pay. But everybody is struggling to get themselves up to speed in how you measure performance, and usually it's both a systems problem and a training problem. I don't think you're ready for it yet. In those situations where clients have adopted step plans, they've done it with the intent, the stated intent on a policy basis, that within a couple of years, let's get our people trained, both employees and managers, and let's then consider moving to that type of plan or an element of that perhaps in 2 years. But let's walk first before we try to run. Now, it's popular to talk about pay for performance, and it's sort of a cachet thing to do these days. Frankly, it's an easier thing to talk about when pay levels aren't rising very much. But the truth is in the doing, and I don't like to see my clients move to that type of a system until they've proven to themselves and to the employees that they can accurately and fairly measure performance. Now, having said that, I must also say that I've had some surprising situations where employees have said to me, "What do you mean I have to make the same money as the person I'm working next to? I work harder." And so things are changing, and I don't think we should at all turn our back on the need to improve our performance management system. I just think you've got a ways to go before you're ready to do that. So my advice to you would be to move to a step plan now with an intent to move the ball down the road and start to look at what a performance-based plan might look like. But that's up to you. I've had clients say, "I don't care if we're not ready, let's get ready, let's adopt it now, and then we'll have to get ready." It's sort of a question of which you do first. I like to get that horse in front of the cart instead of the other way around. So, having raised the issues, let me raise the questions. Question number 1, what market do you wish to compare yourselves to? Everybody? Cities only? Or cities plus counties?
Let's open that one up for discussion. The goal is for Mr. Carlson. Excuse me. We'll open it for discussion. The goal is for Mr. Carlson to leave here tonight with some decisions on those 3 benchmarks so he can go back and work with his people to determine the type of vehicle you want to explore when he comes back. Councillor Sweeney.
I just want to review 2 things and then ask another question. The information we have does not include fringe benefits. Is that accurate?
You're correct.
Okay. And number two, you feel the amount of people in the survey, companies, public sectors, are wide enough, deep enough in breadth, so it won't affect someone who works for the city, has been here 30 years, and everybody has only worked a year. In other words, has that longevity is it large enough to negate that?
Yes.
Yes, it is, or
Yes, it is large enough to negate that.
Okay, all right. And then my third question is, with your question number one, is what is the most prevalent of the three options used in the public sector?
For sure, historically, the most prevalent has been a step system. For sure. The direction, and we have to talk about life post-Act 10 or post-2008, take your marker, but it's that Act 10 phenomenon was real, is that it's splitting about, in my judgment, about 60-40. 60% towards more emphasis on performance, 40% more emphasis on a step system. And it always depends upon what you're ready for.
Okay, I apologize for not making my question clear enough. Back to your question one, public sector, private sector combination. Which of the three, in your experience working with public sectors, do they normally choose?
The combination.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd like to footnote one answer to your question because I think it's very important to do so. You'd ask whether or not we considered benefits in the package. We didn't ignore benefits, but my question back to your folks was, because right now the monster or the difficult thing everybody's dealing with is a soaring cost of health care. And as we've discussed, you're in a high market here. It's an expensive healthcare market. We all know that. But what the city did is made very substantial changes, as you know, in your healthcare program, resulting in either a flat or reduction in rates somewhat to control your costs. The result of which is employees will be able, even though you've offset some of their deductibles and co-pays with an HSA account, they're still going to be spending more money out of pocket. So, that is a move, so we're all clear, that is very typical of what public employers are doing all over the place, as well as all private sector employers. Everybody's struggling with the same thing, and you have made major strides in your struggle. Had you not done that, I would have been factoring the cost of your benefit program into our pay plan analysis.
Councilor Bender?
Well, yes, and Councilor Sweeney kind of asked the same question I was going to ask. You had said at the outset that you would be glad to make a recommendation as far as the three possibilities. That's the all comparisons, cities only, and public only. And so did I hear you say that it would be a combination thereof?
I would take the all. I would take the cities and public sector and private sector combined into one data pool.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Herrick?
Yeah, the current figures you're using, did you include the 2% that's going to be happening in 2015 in any of this figurization?
I did not.
Okay.
And we have to have a conversation about that. Mm-hmm. And I know that you've got one budgeted on 2%. And so what will happen is that based upon whatever decisions guidance you're prepared to make tonight, understanding that you could tell us to do something and then having seen the result decide you want to go down a different path. But based upon that, we will now develop a pay plan, and we will incorporate in that pay plan the 2% raise, and we also will age our data forward to next year to cover that as well, because other employers are moving their data as well. Right now, we're looking at 2014 data. We'll age the data forward, too.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
You answered my question on that one. I was going to ask you, are we going to forward into 15?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll pitch it forward.
So the first question we have before us is the comparables that Mr. Carlson has raised, and he would need to know your desire on that in order to move forward. So the three would be
Everybody in, cities only, no private sector, cities plus counties, no private sector.
Councilor Olson.
I just got a couple questions still while we're under discussion. You answered a couple questions in one-word answers. To Mr. Sweeney's question, is this large enough to negate? And you said yes.
You know, the general rule of thumb I use in doing survey analysis is that I won't accept a data point if it has fewer than 7 comparables. The federal standard is 5 under the Sherman Antitrust Act. We're in the public sector, so I just try to extend the same rules. We've got pretty big samples here in terms of public employers, in terms of number of employers are represented. If you had 5, one outlier could influence the result potentially fairly significantly if it was a big outlier. When you've got 15 and 20, any one employer is not going to have a significant impact. Now, you know, if I put Minneapolis into the mix, would it affect the data? I don't think so, because the sample's that large. I don't think it'd affect it that much. If we had 7 or 8 employers, then it might have a definite impact.
Okay. Still not sure if I understand that, but. And then the other one, when Mr. Bender asked you what your recommendation would be, and you're leaning towards y'all comparisons.
Yes.
Why?
Well, I think because you are competing in the private sector as well as in the public. Some of the heaviest activities in the private sector. I think it gives you a better look, a truer look at the market you're comparing yourselves to. And I think you ought to be as valid as you can be in terms of comparing yourself to the market. You know, sometimes the decision by a client who to compare themselves to is not an economic decision, it's a political decision. And you know, you're the only body that can make that. You could decide you only want to look at these 3 employers or these 5, or exclude the private sector or exclude the public sector and only look at private, et cetera. My job professionally is to give you my best advice as to what I think matters in terms of comparisons. And I think having the private sector in the data, the private sector for this region, is really, really important because you hire a lot of people locally.
Yeah.
And so to ignore what the private sector is paying, I think, would be a big mistake.
No, I appreciate your recommendation. It's just a little bit more. There's a lot of people in the audience that are employees.
Well, fine.
You know, and
Yep.
some of us don't quite understand this consulting stuff. And the other thing then I would like to know is when you're talking about the market, are you talking about the people in this study? And if you are in this market, did you take any consideration into any of these markets as to a person leaving the city of Superior to go to work someplace else?
We ask the question when we do a study like this, where do you tend to get people from, where do you lose them to? You know, and what's the reason for their leaving, if you know. Mm-hmm. And a lot of employers do know. You know, I'm leaving for a higher paying job, I'm leaving because my spouse got a job somewhere else and I'm going with. You know, I'm leaving because I want to live closer to mom. I mean, people leave jobs for a variety of reasons. Public employment tends to be fairly stable. Probably the number one reason people leave the city's employment is they retire, in all likelihood. But then you got to replace them. And the problem is that when a person retires, quite often it's not one hiring you have to do, you've got 3. Because, you know, if it's a supervisor who leaves, now you got to replace the supervisor, you promote somebody within, and then somebody takes that person's job, and then you hire from the outside. So I couldn't give you a scientific explanation of, you know, exactly what's going on and why people leave. And you don't always know when people leave what they were making when, I'm leaving, I'm getting a big high-paying job, but I'm not telling you what it is. So having a reliable measure of what people are leaving for is difficult. The best we can do is to try to get as reliable as we measure as we can as to what similar jobs are paying. And that's about the best we can do.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll ask the council if they want to discuss, move on that first question.
Also move that we accept. I will so move that we accept Mr. Carlson's recommendation and that we go with the all comparables.
And I'll second it.
There's a motion and second discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Second question.
Second question is, all right, so where do you want to position yourself in that marketplace? Do you want to be high, match, or low? I think we pick that first and then we figure how much. If it's match, we don't have to figure on how much.
Councilor Dahlbeck.
I would say to match, would be my opinion.
Councilor Bender.
And if that's a motion, I'll second.
Could you repeat the motion, Councilor? Motion and second to match. Councilor Olson.
If we are to go with match, what do we do with the over percentages? I know that you had stated that you would throw them out of the survey. Is that, if we make this decision, is this where we go? Do we have a future problem on our hands with where we move next?
What will happen is we will use the market data that we've shown you to draw up a pay policy line that matches the market, and around that we will build pay ranges that have a minimum and a maximum. And the question then is, when we bring that back to you, is the range of pay for your jobs an effective representation of what these people can reasonably make in the marketplace doing what they're doing? And then the second question is, and so how do the incumbents fit within that range? And we will tell you both things. You never know in adopting a pay plan whether you got it right until you implement it and you try it. I mean, it's just the reality of business world. And the other thing that we want to make sure we do, and we will recommend this as part of our plan to you, is that there be an appeal process when we're done. Because if I, as an individual employee, feel you didn't get mine right, I want a chance to be heard. And so once you've adopted a pay plan, we'll have an appeal process in place. So an employee who feels that they have been classified, paid inappropriately, would have an opportunity to say, I think it's wrong and here are the reasons why. And then we'll have to have a review. And then ultimately, those decisions will have to be made by the city as to what appeals to grant, what to deny, what modifications to make. And so because it's such, it's got a good, solid, systematic basis for designing a pay plan, that doesn't mean people are always happy with the outcome. It also doesn't mean we're always right. And so we want to have a process at the end to tune it up to make sure that we've got it as right as we can get it. Understanding that you're never going to make, I always say, I gave up a long time ago being in the happiness business. I just don't know how to do that.
I don't either.
The best I can offer is a fairness business. And if we can achieve a real sense of fairness so that people understand how things happen, why it happened, what happens to me, etc., that's about as good as we're going to do.
Good.
Any other discussion? Councilor Sweeney?
I want to go back to number one. you said people leave for money, but when people leave a job, money isn't the number one thing.
You're right.
It's down the list. I don't know what the number is, but
I'm unhappy.
okay, right. Okay.
That's the one that causes people to, and I think I can be happier here.
Right. Exactly. So money
Yeah.
isn't the only factor. Okay.
No.
Okay. And then, are more people, in your experience, where your market is in your business, are more people moving from government to private or from private to government?
Both ways.
Well, no, I would understand that. But percentage-wise, do you know, is it even, or is it more people moving from private to public, or the other way around?
Well,
That would-
because we don't tend to have a lot of outward movement. What happens is this: the way the public sector model works, in my experience, is that people who tend to move out of a public sector job more often than not will move to another public sector job because they're so invested in the pension.
Okay.
I had somebody say to me the other day, I'm not very happy here. Can you help me find a different job, but I want it to be within the pension system? Well, it's very, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Occasionally, I will see a department head move to a private sector job for a lot of bucks. A super highly skilled engineer, somebody who's a police chief moving into consulting. I've seen that. But it's rarer. When we're hiring people, I would say more often than not, we tend to hire them from the private sector, not the public. The exception being department heads. If I'm hiring a police chief, I'm probably going to hire one from a public sector employer. If I'm hiring a director of public works, I might hire a professional engineer from a consulting firm, etc.
What leads me to that dialogue is that some people would not consider the public sector to be in competition with the private sector, be paying a much higher wage in the private sector. And I'm somewhat sympathetic to that move too.
I think it's a lot more, my analysis is it's a lot more competitive today than it ever has been before. That's why I asked you the question. Yeah, no, I think so. Now market conditions can change, can all of a sudden, because the private sector could be more cyclical, we tend to be more flat. We offer more security, typically.
Further discussion? If not, the motion's on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Question number three.
Question number 3. What kind of pay plan do you want? A variable pay for performance plan or a step system?
Councilor Bender.
I'll make a motion for the step system.
I'll second that.
You've heard the motion and second to recommend a step system. I'm sorry, Councilor Sweeney.
In the private sector, or in the public sector, how many, in your experience, go strictly for the merit, I'll call it merit pay, and not the step pay? Do you have any?
Yes. I've had, out of the 47, I've had 3.
Okay.
I can name them.
Okay, yeah.
Mid-State Technical College, City of Appleton, City of Neenah. That's it, out of 47. I suspect that's reasonably representative. That'd be 6% or so.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Any other comments, Mr.
Thank you
Carlson?
for your time. Hopefully we'll see you in November.
Thank you very much.
Item number 6 is the consent agenda. We are requesting that you separate item out for discussion under 7.2, item 6.5, number 4, which is the landfill budget. That is set to be discussed under 7.2, which is the residential recycling fee.
Move for approval of the consent agenda as modified.
Second.
Heard the motion and second to approve is modified. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 7.1, Finance Director Vito is recommending approval of the Internal Auditor Services contract with Thomas Anderson for $40,000 annually through December 2015.
Heard the motion and second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Item 7.2, Finance Director Vito is requesting approval of a monthly residential recycling fee of $3.50 beginning November 2014.
Heard the motion and second. We'll open it for discussion. If I may, I'll start the discussion if I may. As you know, we've been discussing the landfill issues for a long period of time. And for the folks here in the audience and those that may be at home, the 3 or 4 of them that watch this, it's up to 6, okay. The landfill is an enterprise fund, or an enterprise, I should say, and it's funded outside of the general revenues that the city collects for operations. There's 2 enterprise systems in the city of Superior. One is actually there's 3. The landfill, the environmental services sewage treatment plant, and basically the golf course is an enterprise in and of itself, managed by the private sector, actually. Some would believe that the marina is an enterprise. We receive 60% of the revenues off the marina operated by the private sector under contract with the city. Unfortunately, and I don't want to be long-winded about this, but the landfill is upside down. No pun intended. I'll tell you some of the reasons why I personally believe it's upside down. One reason that it's not upside down is it is not at the fault of anybody in this room. It is not at the fault of anybody in the city. It's not at the fault of anybody that uses the landfill. But we do use the landfill. The landfill, when it turned upside down, it was a process that was elongated, and it was due to, in 1976, I think it was, there was an environmental act that was extended in 1993 when it covered landfills in America. What happened there was the requirements for engineering, the requirements for cell construction, all the requirements to compacting, to cover, to long-term maintenance, required all landfills in America to be the same. So postage-size stamp landfills, such as what we have in Superior, ours is 40 acres at max, I think, in the area, has to comply with the mega landfills that you see in Serona, for instance, or the mega landfills across the nation. What that meant was that we couldn't dispose of the garbage as we did for decades and decades and decades. What has to happen now is the engineering, just to get a permit to build a cell costs $1 million. By the time you engineer it, go through the processes of permit process with the DNR, it's about $1 million just to get the permit to build a new cell. That's just the beginning. Last year, and it also is the landfills are reviewed by the DNR periodically through the year. We have to hire contractors to periodically review our landfill from compaction to leachate to whatever and have that report to the DNR. Last year, we constructed a cell. A cell is where you pack the garbage. That cell cost $8 million. One cell. That cell is going to be good for maybe 10 years. Right now, we're covering a cell that is full. That coverage, the cost of that coverage is $2.5 million. I'm not making this up, folks. Then, when we cover a cell, we have to provide a degree on assurance, I should say, that we have enough money for long-term care and maintenance for 40 years to test the cell that's been covered, to protect the cell, to take care of any eventuality, including if they wanted us to dig it back up again because they saw something wrong. These are requirements that have been placed upon our community and communities across the nation by the respective states, DNRs, regulatory agencies, and the federal EPA as how we operate business in garbage collection and disposal, compaction, and getting rid of it. The other thing is that the DNR, back in about 2006, there was legislation at the state level, correct me if I'm wrong, 2006, 2008, I forget, whereby the DNR now charges everybody in the state of Wisconsin, whether it's a public landfill or a private landfill, and there are only two public municipal landfills in the state of Wisconsin, Janesville and the city of Superior. Janesville is much larger, as you might imagine. So the legislation was passed in 2006, let's say, whereby the DNR started collecting, I think it was $3.50 per ton that's tipped in every landfill in Wisconsin. Periodically, that was raised. Today, we're paying the DNR $13 a ton for every ton that's tipped in the landfill. What does that equate to? Last year it was $1.7 million that we had to pay to the DNR, the state of Wisconsin, to go in their general fund to use as they deem fit. We get no service for that. Now, talking about the service itself, there isn't a municipality that I know of in the state of Wisconsin that doesn't charge for garbage or recycling, except Superior, Wisconsin. Within your property tax bill, there's about a few dollars that is equated per month for recycling and garbage. What is recycling? Recycling is the one you're most familiar with is the Hartel company picks up your recycling. Excellent job, excellent service, excellent company. We get high marks, high compliments from everybody about the service from Hartel. What you may not recognize in the recycling as we know it is that too includes mattresses, that includes toxics, paints, your brush cleanup in the spring, I guess it is, and your leaf cleanup in the fall. Let me take that one step further. The municipalities that I'm familiar with, they do not pick up brush. They do not pick up leaves. They may not pick up mattresses. A mattress takes 3 cubic feet of landfill space for every mattress that goes in there. The mattresses that are dry, we can move to the Goodwill, where they recycle mattresses and all the components. If they're wet, they have to be buried. Mattresses is a killer at the landfill because people are dropping them all over the place. We end up having to pick them up because they're thrown through neighborhoods and so forth. And then it's the responsibility of you, the taxpayers, to pack that mattress in that landfill at a cost of 3 cubic feet per mattress, which is a massive consumption of land space or landfill space. The issue here is the landfill is now receiving about 20,000 tons less per year, which is a good thing. The city of Superior, since we started recycling, we were at about 10,500 tons of waste in our landfill per year. We're down to about 8,500 tons because 70% of the people have embraced recycling, so that there's less garbage, if you will, going to landfill, which means there's less tipping fees. The WLSSD was depositing about 115 or 118,000 tons per year in our landfill at the full tipping rate. Because of the experience, if you will, and the success of recycling, they're depositing about 95,000 tons in our landfill, so there's less revenue. What I'm pointing at here, driving at, I should say, is that it isn't an operational issue. It isn't a wasteful issue. It isn't an inefficient issue of the operations. It's a revenue stream issue. Right now, the landfill, including recycling, is done in 2015 is going to cost about $6.3 million. Gene?
I've got the budget here somewhere in my pile. I think it's, just over 6 million.
6 million, 6.2, $6.3 million. The revenue's not there to support it. Now, you might say, well, let's just pick up garbage every other week, or it doesn't matter. It's the same amount of garbage going in there. And I can't hire garbage truck drivers one week and lay them off the next week. Doesn't make sense. It's not practical. It's not even efficient financially or business smart. So we have a landfill that is now being subsidized by the general fund. The general fund is all operations in the city except for the enterprise systems. We have a landfill that's being subsidized by the general fund to $1 million a year and growing. The cost of the operation is not stagnant because at any given moment, the DNR may say, hey, we want 15 bucks a ton, or whatever else may happen, or the cost of construction of cells. So between the $1 million that the general fund is subsidizing the landfill and the revenue that is decreasing from the WLSSD because less tonnage is less tipping is less revenue, we've got a problem here. We got a problem. The problem has very few opportunities for solutions. The solutions are rare because our revenue streams have dried up. We are operating, talking about the revenue from the general fund to subsidize the landfill. Your city budget is at about $27 million, give or take a few hundred thousand. It's been at $27 million since 2008. We're operating on 2014 costs off of a value of 2008 budgeting. Why is that? We were in 5 years of recession where there was no growth, no new tax revenue because there was no growth. We are under a levy limit freeze that's been in existence for 10 years. What is a levy limit freeze? It means that we cannot raise the levy unless we do two things or have two things before us. We can issue debt and raise the levy to pay off the debt. That doesn't make sense. You're walking backwards. Or through tax-based growth. And once again, for the last 5 years, there has not been any tax-based growth in Superior or Madison or any place else in this country. So we're stuck at a 2008 budget, subsidizing the landfill to $1 million and rising every year because the landfill revenue is going down. What is the solution? I don't like fees. Nobody likes fees. But I like the fee that I pay for a green fee when I golf because I'm a user. But guess what? We're all users at the landfill. Every single one of us, to a degree or another. Fees should only be charged for users if they're using some product or some service. I've lived in this town most of my life. Many of you have. We have come to believe, seriously, I'm not trying to be facetious or catty. We have come to believe that things are free. And some people say my property taxes are higher than a kite. No, they're not. I think we've examined this. We're right in the middle of the pack in all municipalities in the state of Wisconsin. We're not high, we're not low, we're in the middle of the pack. But we're an anomaly. We're an anomaly for several reasons. First of all, we're the only municipality in the state of Wisconsin, or town or village, that doesn't charge for garbage pickup separate from property taxes. We're the only city or village or town in the state of Wisconsin that doesn't charge a recycling fee in addition to property taxes. We're the only city in the state of Wisconsin that does not have special assessments. What does it mean by that? That means if we're going to put a sidewalk in front of your house, if we're going to put a curb in front of your house, if we're going to put a street in front of your house, there's no special assessments. In our friendly city of Duluth, you pay special assessments for all of that, including sewer work. You pay a light fee in Duluth. You pay your garbage separate. It's about between 40 and 60 bucks a month in the city of Duluth. If you live in Bayfield, if you live in Maple, Wisconsin, if you live in Oliver, Wisconsin, if you live in any place around us, you're going to pay a fee. up and above your property taxes. Is that fair? I don't know. But it's a business decision that has to be raised, it has to be examined, it has to be discussed, but it can't be kicked down the road. Government is famous for kicking it down the road. I'm going to get reelected, so I'll kick it down the road so I can get reelected. When I get reelected, oh, let's kick it down the road again because I want to get reelected. Can't kick it down the road anymore because there's no solution. The solutions are not there. The only solution is, and if it gets kicked down the road, here's what's going to happen. Other core services will have to be reduced or eliminated or altered to pack garbage. I don't buy that. I don't think anybody in this room buys it. The landfill budget in 2015 is going to be as high as the most expensive service in every municipality that I know, the police department. We'll be paying more to pack garbage than we will for public safety. That isn't right, folks. It isn't fair, and it also isn't safe. But the landfill has now become the major source of consumption of any department in the city of Superior, and that is not a department, it's an enterprise. We're subsidizing the enterprise. I don't personally believe we should do that, and I will support the fee because we have to do something. And by supporting the fee, the landfill is still going to be upside down to about $800,000, $900,000 a year. More expenses than the revenue. This is a dilemma. Never in my wildest dreams would I ever think we'd be talking garbage, but we are. I'll open it up. Councilor Delbeck.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Bruce. I've had a number of people that I've gotten conversations with about our garbage issue, and I explained to them that it is not this council, it is not the administration or previous councils or administrations. Essentially, it's the state of Wisconsin. The state of Wisconsin takes an average $63 per person for the city of Superior and gives us nothing back. It was a 400% since they started taking money, and we have nothing to say about it. They just tell us, we're taking it. You don't like it, that's too bad. And I think this has gone on to the point where you're right. We may have to look down the road of reducing our police department, our public safety, public works, people inside. Services will have to be cut because there's nothing else we can do. You know, and I would hope that people out there would understand and contact their state legislators and ask them why they haven't done anything to stop this. Essentially, they've raided our funds out there, and they continue to do it. And we talked to them in Madison, Bruce, and there was no sympathy whatsoever. So I suggest people out there contact your state legislators.
Thank you. Councilor Esther Dahlberg.
I agree with you 100%, but, you know, this city is mostly retired people. They can't afford. They live on a budget. They can't afford anymore. And, you know, Mayor, this is $350 this year. Next year it's going to be $450, and the year after that it's going to be higher. Every time we come up with some kind of assessment, we keep on raising it. It doesn't stay there. Sewage is a fact, rainwater is a fact, and I just can't go along with it. You're taking it off the people who cannot afford it. $350 sure doesn't seem like a lot, and it's not a lot, but it is when you're on a fixed income or you're a young couple who work for minimum wage. They can't afford it. Groceries now that cost $100 2 years ago cost $200 this year. Everything has gone up. I just can't go along with this. I think we're looking at the wrong people. Maybe we should look within and start cutting within. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I should mention one more thing. When the legislature, let me back up. In the last 3 years, the legislature has passed 64 bills into law that have either reduced, eliminated local control, or passed on unfunded mandates. And there will be 2 more coming up in the next biennial budget that I'm aware of. One is to eliminate the ability to charge a fee for recycling. Because when they did it to us in 2013, the bill in 2013 stated if a municipality, town, or village charges a fee for garbage collection, snow plowing, street sweeping, or fire protection, they must reduce their levy by an equal amount. So let's say it was $2 million. We'd reduce our levy by $2 million. We'd be laying off cops, robbers, police, fire, so forth. So the legislators that authored that bill were upset with the Department of Revenue, who was charged with writing the administrative rule and promulgating the language, that they didn't include recycling in there. So we're going to see a bill in the legislature in this next spring session to eliminate the ability to charge a fee for recycling. That may sound good, but it goes right back to what do you want for services. There's another bill that's going to be introduced, and I believe I don't know how soon, with the elimination of personal property taxes. If they pass the bill to eliminate personal property taxes, which sounds wonderful, we will lose another $1.4 million of general fund revenue. We're going to be talking real serious issues if that should happen. I hate to blame people, but the legislature has not been a friend to this community or any other community in the state of Wisconsin, and the governor signed all 64 of those bills into law that have negatively affected this and every other community. So I just wanted to say that because this didn't happen overnight. It happened legislatively, programmatically, and consistently over time. Councilor Olson.
With all due respect to the people that signed up to speak to this, would it be okay if we heard from them and their concerns and then get back to the council?
Sure.
Thank you.
The only person that has signed up to speak to this issue is Mick McKenzie.
Mick McKenzie, 2353 Logan, Billings Park. By the way, Mayor, I'm not running for re-election yet. But I just wanted to give my opinion for what it's worth, because I have talked with a lot of people too, and I guess I got a different spin on this. I think everyone knows, like you talked about, we had a problem out at the landfill. It was a collapse of cell 5. Dan, Warren, we all talked about this, and, no one supposedly is at fault, but something happened out there, and really no one was held accountable. Engineers, architect, contractors, any oversight. And so I think right now, we're looking at holding property owners accountable with these fees. And the only problem is, like Esther had said, many elderly people, people are on fixed incomes, and those people are making less than $1,000 a month. And you add a fee like this to their, I think, high property taxes, high sewer rate. And by the way, I just got my high sewer rate bill today, and stormwater fees, and they don't have much money left after that. I have a question. I know nobody can answer me now, but wondering how we're getting around the state budget that says that if you incorporate new fees, that you have to take it off their property taxes. The way I see this now, instead it's saying that the recycling fee goes onto your taxes if you don't pay this fee. Not so sure that that's a good thing, although you probably could write it off your taxes. I still think that the better solution would be enforcement of the mandatory recycle ordinance that we put in. I'm not sure if that was 8-9 years ago. And if there's any penalty, I look at these fees as a penalty, but if there's a penalty, it should be for non-recyclers, not residents who comply completely. I guarantee you that if you don't do this, that you're going to see a lot of people joining the ranks of non-recyclers because they're not happy. My last suggestion, and I think, Mayor, that I think there is going to be some savings with garbage if you went to every 2 weeks because of the use of the equipment, less use of manpower. And I think that you could also go to, because I have one of the big containers now, 96-gallon container, I can recycle everything that I have to, and I do have a full barrel when I'm done once a month. And so and I think that might reduce the contract, maybe a money savings. It works for me, and I think it even works in summer months, as long as you're properly bagging everything. And last thing I just wanted to say that, Dennis, when I was your city councilor, I remember you calling me up and very concerned about this, talked about these fees. I know you had some other solutions for it. I think you said that it was BS, and I agreed with you. I hope that your feelings are still the same. Mine are. Again, there's a lot of people that feel this way, and Esther, thank you for the words and for speaking up for, again, I think for people who can't afford this. So, thanks a lot.
We talked about the every other week and the recycling and so forth. And correct me if I'm wrong, the savings would be almost minuscule if non-existent. Am I correct?
Yeah, our cost to collect garbage in the town is about $600,000 a year. If you went to every other week collection, you're not going to cut your costs in half. I would be guessing, but you would save, a little fuel and some labor, but it would not solve the problem.
Well, we wouldn't be saving labor because we'd have to deploy those employees to other duties, and that's not going to save any labor. But the other issue is recycling. Our recycling compliance is about 70% in the community, and Mr. McKenzie is right that we need to have more people comply, but our 70% is pretty much a very high average of municipalities. Getting the other 30% to comply is going to take bodies to go out and survey it, as well as fining the people, and that'll be as popular as what we're talking about tonight. But we would like to get 100% compliance. But once again, the landfill, if we get the 30% compliance and recycling, that for those people that do not, it is not, this is hard to understand, hard to believe, it is not going to lessen the cost of operating a landfill because it's a fixed cost out there. With all the fees and everything we have to pay. We have, Jeff, how many people? We have 4.5 employees out there, am I correct? 4.5 that manage the whole landfill, and we have 4 drivers that take the garbage out there. The cost of garbage collection has not increased since 1999. It's $600,000 a year, and it's a service that is not costing any more than it did. It's the landfill. Picking up the garbage off the curb is not the major cost. It's when it goes to the landfill and the operation of the landfill due to the massive costs that have been imposed upon us by the state of Wisconsin and the EPA and the cost of construction and compaction and cover. That's the only person that want to speak. Does anybody else want to speak to this issue? And I'll turn it back to the council for discussion. Councilor Olson.
I was assuming that there was a whole pile of people that wanted to talk to this, but I got a feeling it's for something else, so bear with us. I've got a couple of comments and a couple of suggestions. The comments, first of all, this is a problem and the can has been kicked down the road, because if we've been stuck in a levee for how many years, we can probably thank God I wasn't here then, so I'm going to blame somebody prior to me. It's easy. We probably didn't do the right steps at that point in time, but at that point in time, we don't realize that there's a problem. Right. Because if there wasn't a problem at that time, you just don't go looking for problems. But with saying that, we've got a problem now, and it's more than one-fold, two-fold, three-fold. There's a lot of things that are contributing to this. My suggestion, or step back if I could, we still don't even know what we're doing with the landfill. We don't know if we're keeping it. We don't know if we're privatizing. We don't know if we are selling it. We don't know if we are going to lease it and still manage it. My suggestion is, in point blank, I don't support a $3.50 a month recycling fee. There's a few things that we could think at looking at. The recycling is got to be realized that it's more than the gray can that we've got from Hartel in the alley. Okay? The brush, I don't know that we do that much brush in the spring, but let's think about talking to DSL, Kimmis. You're looking at me confused. Kimmis's landfill. And they handle brush there, which they in turn mulch, turn into bedding for cows, horses, farm animals, that they could recycle that to some degree. I think in the spring when we do the pickup, we do two things. We end up with a bunch of alley rats going through everybody's junk that they've accumulated over a year, and that's not the healthiest thing either. But, I mean, nothing you can do about a hoarder. But in the fall, if we could figure out something that we could eliminate some of the things that we do, we had a problem years ago with the mattresses, furniture, stuff like that out on Billings Drive. Maybe we close that drive out a little bit earlier because of the fact that it takes labor, machinery, and just time, energy, and money to do those things. I don't believe that we can get down any further with the manpower that we have at the landfill. That's not only is it bare bones right now, but you got to take into consideration of safety at some point too. My suggestion is, if we still don't know what we're doing with the landfill, the people that made the motion here, if you'd be willing to amend your motion, there is legislation that's proposed, correct, Mayor, for no more fees without going back on your levy?
Right, that's right.
Okay, so in other words, we need to do this so we've got it on the books, correct? We need to implement a policy here that we can collect a fee before the state imposes legislation on us that tells us we can't. Fair assumption?
Right. The caveat, either way, the caveat may be what they did last time was they made it retroactive to January of 2013. What they may do with this time, they may want to make it retroactive to whatever, which would negate, it would override anything we do here. But I still think we should be in a fail-safe position as much as we can to be able to react to that. If we don't do something, we've still got that upside-down problem out there.
My ask of the people that made the motion then would be to consider changing your motion to $1 a month. We've got it on the books. It enables us to have a policy in place. It loosens or lessens the burden on the taxpayers of this community by 2/3 of the ask. And we figure out what we're going to do with the landfill moving forward. If the motioners would be willing to amend their motion.
Councillor Finsland, if I may just, I have directed the finance director and the public works director to work with the consultant to develop an RFP for the sale of the landfill. You're exactly correct. We don't know what it's worth until we ask the question. So until we know what it's worth, we can't really move very far with regard to the landfill. What are we going to do with it? So that is in process. It'll be about 3 months before that's ready for putting it out. Councillor Finsland.
Yeah, I'm unwilling to change that motion because I think that we've gone over this in finance, we've gone over in public works, we've discussed it ad infinitum. And I think it's time that we quit kicking the can and postponing things. We can always rescind the fee if it's required, if we do something else. But I think we should call the question on this, find out where we stand with these people, the council that we have, and make a decision today, not wait any longer, because if we're required to rescind it, then we will do that. But I don't think it's appropriate to put in a trivial little fee that doesn't do anything to answer the question.
Thank you. Councilor Dahlbeck?
Yeah, I agree with Bob. I think that the $350 is not an outrageous fee. And I realize that we have people that are on fixed incomes. I had somebody ask me about, we'll put it on the tax rolls. Well, then you have a lot of nonprofits and you have a lot of people out there that the burden would be greater on the people that are paying taxes than spreading it out through anybody that has a garbage can. I think if we look at it, if people are worried, Esther's worried that we're going to jack it up every year, I'd be willing to add an addendum on that it's frozen at $350 for X amount of years. That way, nobody has to worry about us coming back and readdressing this and having to get up to $10 or $12, that it would stay at $350 for X amount of years. All right. So I guess I would agree with what we have then.
Councilor Sweeney?
Thank you. No one has ever accused me of being a spender, okay? So I've looked at this thing 100 different ways. I've studied it. I really have spent a lot of time looking at it. And I'm on the finance committee, so I got information from them. Like Bob suggested, we vetted that at the couple of finance committee meetings. And so kicking it down the road is not. Leadership requires some tough decisions. And this is a business decision, and I think we've got to make it today with no addendums, put the fee in, and move forward. Thank you.
Councilor McDonald?
My issue is people aren't thinking ahead. If we do get lucky enough to sell the landfill, $350 is going to be nothing to what you're going to be paying. We're going to be paying probably, like Duluth does, up to $60 a month, or maybe more by that time. So, and we won't have any regulation on it because it'll be private. So $350 to hang on to, paying less to me right now until we can figure something out is very reasonable compared to what it could be in the future.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'll ask the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Assistant Finance Director Bronson is requesting approval of the 2015 landfill budget.
Speaker. Is a motion and second to approve? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carried.
Item 7.4, Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Director Morgan is submitting a request from the Superior J.C.'s to partner with the City of Superior to build a dog park. We have several people signed up to speak tonight in a presentation from the J.C.'s.
Did a motion first.
Yep.
Yeah, I will make a two-part motion. First part is to send this back to Parks and Rec and Planning and have Mary and Jason review the site selection and provide detailed analysis of potential sites at our November meeting. Secondly, to approve the partnership between the City of Superior and the Superior J.C.'s to work together in the construction of this dog park within the city limits of Superior.
I will second that.
You've heard the motion and second.
Don't ask me to read it
Don't
back.
ask you to read it back. Give her a copy. Word for word. All in favor signify by, no, I'm sorry, we need, we'll open it up. First of all, presentation by the J.C.'s, please.
Is that
Before you begin, on behalf of everybody, we absolutely want to thank you for your stepping up and wanting to assist in this project.
Hi, Amber Peterson. I'm president of the Superior J.C.'s. We're going to try and make this short and sweet just because I think the meeting's already going longer than anticipated. We just want to roll through a quick presentation. Part of it is what we did at our neighborhood public meeting last Wednesday, and then the majority of it is addressing the concerns that we heard from the meeting. So. First of all, who are the JCs? We've been a group that's been around in the Douglas County Superior area for the last 61 years. A lot of our projects, we've kind of just stayed under the radar. We do our annual Gitche Gumi Brew Fest. We had a very successful year just this last spring, and raised enough funds where the JCs thought it's enough time being humble about our group. It's time to really get our name out there, so Dog Park came about. We serve the whole Douglas County area, but we meet once a month in Superior. It's for men and women ages 21 to 40. Go ahead. A big question is, what is a dog park? When we came to this project, there was a lot of confusion. People thought that dogs would be just running loose in a field. So I do just want to for sure let everybody know that it'll be a fenced-in area that will be off-leash where pet owners can come and exercise their dogs, but it is fenced-in and off-leash. The big question is why is the JCs, why are we on board for a dog park? The City of Superior has been receiving requests for over the past 10 years to the Parks and Rec Board. People have been knocking on Mary Morgan's door requesting a dog park, but there's never been a group of individuals to kind of team together and get this project going. So that's one of the reasons why. In 2010, the City Council did adopt a dog park as part of the park's master park plan. So it is noted from 2010 that there has been enough need. The Parks and Rec Commission did go on record to approve our project, and they voted to refer it to City Council, which is why we're here tonight. A little bit about the proposed site. We are proposing that the location currently be right behind the Billings Park Civic Center, if you're familiar with that area. It actually will land between Texas Avenue and New York Avenue, accessed off North 18th where you pull into the Civic Center. Currently, it's a vacant football field that used to be used for Pony League football, but currently there's minimal organized teams, or I should say there's no organized teams that we are aware of that currently use the field. What we are proposing is we would install a 6-foot-high black vinyl coated fence that would go ahead and encompass pretty much that entire area. We have met with Public Works and the Parks and Rec department just to make sure that we are within the setbacks that also go hand in hand with any of the maintenance issues. A little bit about the park, too, is we're planning about roughly 20% of the park will be designated to dogs that are about 20 pounds or smaller. This allows people with smaller breed dogs to be able to come and still use the park and exercise them and, safely if they're not comfortable with their breed running in with a larger breed dog. Again, this will be an off-leash park, and it's required for all users to remove the leash before entering the park. So there will be a 20-foot by 20-foot gated, it's a gated vestibule that goes where the owners can come in and they introduce their dog and take them off leash in the gated entrance first before they enter the park. The other thing is in the entrance, the dog park rules and the etiquette will be posted. We'll get into some of those concerns, too, about if people actually follow the rules or not. I apologize for this picture. It's not the best. In the bottom right-hand corner, it's an aerial view. You can see that that's the Billings Park Civic Center with the parking lot on the bottom there. And then it's pretty much it's a snapshot of the exact setbacks that we need to do to coincide with what is required for the mowing and ditch lines. Big question, too, is how are the JCs helping? The JCs have voted last month at our last meeting that we are willing. We got bids for the fence for the size that was mentioned, the 440 by 220. It was roughly about $23,000. So the JCs have proposed that the major expense of this park would be the fencing. So the JCs are proposing we fund the 75% of the fence, which is roughly over $17,000. And then the JCs were committed to fundraising the remaining 25%, which is the $5,700. Any funds that we raise above the 25%, which we're confident we will, we've had many people already coming to us asking how can we donate. Anything raised above and beyond will go for future improvements for trees, benches, shade, water, etc. Twice a year, the JCs, we do a spring and fall highway cleanup on Highway 2. We would add this in part of our cleanup, that we would also adopt the park. Granted, it's only twice a year, but at least we have the group of JCs to come in and make sure we're doing a full deep clean. What the City of Superior is helping with is the following. The city is willing to pour the 20 by 20 concrete slab for the entrance, which the fence will go around. You can just fly through these. From the parking lot where the Billings Park Civic Center, where there will be parking, the city will be doing a gravel pathway from the parking lot to the entrance. It'll be handicap accessible. City will provide the mutt mitts, which are the dog waste bags, so we encourage people to clean up after their pet. There will also be a handicap-accessible porta potty. The city will print all aluminum signage for any rules and etiquette, any city ordinance that we want to have posted for the owners to read. Big thing is the city will be installing the fence for us. If we didn't have the city on board to help us with that, we wouldn't be able financially to be able to do this project. There's a few ideas. If anybody visits the Keene Creek Park in West Duluth, there's a mound there. We might look at something similar to that. I don't think quite as high, but if we choose to do that, the city will provide the supplies for that. Garbage cans to include waste pickup, and then any ongoing maintenance, as this will be a city park.
And then, so what we did is, that was our ideal spot. That spot in Billings Park, you guys saw the picture of it. So what we did is, last Wednesday, we had a public meeting, invited the neighbors so we could hear their concerns, so we could let them know what's going on. And I just want to go over some of the concerns that we heard at the meeting, and just kind of let you guys know how we're addressing them. One of them was, some people, they said that we need more housing in the city of Superior, not a dog park. And that was actually one of the things that we ran into when we were looking for a location, is there's chunks of land that would be perfect for a dog park, but they're already set aside for future development for housing. So I guess, yeah, I agree. We do need more quality housing in Superior, but there's also the need for a dog park. Some of the observations, some of the people that spoke, had some concerns about the dog park, mentioned that they've been to the Keene Creek Dog Park, and some of the things that they said, some of the negative things that they found, there was a lot of dog waste, there was a lot of dogs barking and all that. I would encourage all you counselors to go to the Keene Creek Dog Park. It's it doesn't smell. There's not a lot of dogs barking. If you've ever been to a dog park, and I really would encourage you to check that out. When a dog barks is when it greets another dog, and then it goes and it runs and has a good time. A dog that's exercising, burning enough energy, isn't a dog that's barking. It's a dog that's chained up behind the fence that wants to be out exercising, that keeps barking and barking and barking. Another one about they're worried that the rules posted won't be followed. And we would like this park to be treated just like any other city park. There's rules posted, citizens are expected to follow the rules, and we would expect that to translate into this dog park too. Other potential uses for this field, there was some concerns. There was some pickup football games. Some people use it for flying kites. For various other activities, and the fact is, it's not being utilized to its full potential. It's a great space, and there's no organized football that's being done on there. It's being underutilized, and we feel that this would be an excellent use for that field. One of the concerns was a camera or a monitoring system in the park. And again, we're going to treat this just like any other park, and we're going to leave that up to the police department. If they feel that there's all these unnecessary calls, we're going to leave that in their hands. If they want to put up a monitoring system, a camera, something like that, by all means. The one over in Duluth, the Keene Creek, they don't have that. They don't have any issues. So worry about the dogs running to and from the off leash, or to and from the park off leash. The parking is, I don't know exactly what the distance is from where we've got the entrance. It's probably, 100 feet or so, if that. And so there was some concern that they would take the dogs out and, bring them in, off leash, then they would go running. And it's no different than any other city park. There isn't a necessarily a leash law in Superior where you have to have your dog on a leash or an ordinance. You just have to have your dog under control. So we would ask that, just like any other city park, if you've got the dog under control, just follow suit. One of the other concerns is the city park hours. It's from 5:30 to 10:30 for any city park, and there was some concerns that the dogs would be barking late at night. And actually, when we left that, because we had the meeting at the Civic Center, there is no lighting there at all. And so, if you're going to be using this past dusk, you're going to be flying blind. There is no lighting there at all. So, I think it's going to be just like the one at Keene Creek, where it follows the rotation of daylight hours. Will the park be fenced? We already addressed that. It's going to be a 6-foot high fence. We are, the bid that we got, it is a black vinyl coated fence, and so it'll look a lot nicer than just a galvanized chain link fence. Hours of the park, 5:30 to 10:30. Is there water at the park? Not at this time. This is one of the things that we do want to fundraise for down the road, so that we can have a nice big dish for the dogs to drink. So right now in the beginning phases of this, until we raise enough money to tap into one of the other water lines in the area, we're just going to encourage the users to bring their own water. Will it be handicap accessible? Absolutely. The paved trail going to the park is going to be handicap accessible, and then also it's going to have the 20 by 20 paved paved, the concrete slab. You'll be able to use a wheelchair in there too. How will the dog park be built? The initial phase, right now, the Jaycees, they're committed to purchasing enough for the bare bones. The cost of the fence. The Parks and Rec Department has been gracious enough to partner with us and install the fence. Down the road, we would love to have benches for people to sit down on, maybe even a covered, over that 2020 area, maybe a covered area for some extra shade for the owners, some benches, some additional trees, some a lot of other things. Because one of the other things that we heard at this was noise concerns and the smell concerns. I kind of already addressed those earlier, but one of the things that we have talked about as a committee is possibly planting some nice evergreen trees, along the side to maybe put some kind of a buffer for both the noise and any smell. Will there be green space? Absolutely. It's still going to be green space. It's just going to be fenced in. Should I be concerned about safety? And basically, this is going to follow just like any other park in the city of Superior. If you've got an aggressive dog, we're going to ask you not to use the park. If you've got a dog in heat, we're going to ask you not to use the park, just because that's going to create additional chaos at the park. Won't the dog park smell and be unsanitary? The type of dog owner that takes the time to load its dog up, bring it to a dog park, to exercise it, most of the time, if you go off the track record of the Keene Creek Dog Park, that's the kind of owner that's going to pick up after himself, and that's why I really encourage you, the counselors, to go spend some time there. If you've got a dog, go take your dog and check it out. In fact, the Keene Creek has been so successful, they're looking at doing another one in Duluth right now. I don't know if you can really see this. This is an example of the Keene Creek Dog Park, what their rules are. It cites some city ordinances and just some basic rules. Where will people park? We've talked to the Billings Park Civic Center, and they've got we've got their full support as far as they just don't want us to designate parking for dog park only. The parking lot, it gets busy during elections, busy during some hockey, busy during weddings, knowing that they're still supporting us in this. Does the dog need to be licensed just like any other city park? Yeah. It's a city ordinance that it all should be licensed. We kind of already covered this about aggressive dogs and why was the site chosen. We sat down this has been in the planning stages for about 2 months, And we sat down and we looked at every spot we could think of. We sat down with multiple meetings. Looked through, we started with about 15 different sites, narrowed it down to basically about 2. And between private property, heavily wooded areas where we'd have to spend a considerable amount of money clearing it, wetlands where it'd be a considerable amount of money to mitigate that, it's really, this is the spot that we narrowed it down to. It was formerly a Memorial football field. We've got the full blessing, the full support of the family that they're looking to memorialize that in a different area. The next step, I fully support Councilor Dahlbeck's motion here to bring this back to the Parks and Planning Department for another month. We did our due diligence, and we're presenting the best spot that we've got. But what we want to do is, because of some of the concern at the last the meeting that we had last week, is we would like to spend one more month, let the Parks and Planning Department either verify that this is going to be the best spot for this, or think of another solution. And then we're going to ask it to come back to the council for a final approval in a month. Once the site's voted on, we'll break ground 2015, weather and job assignment permitting. And then, lastly, once the fence is installed, we'd like to have a big grand opening. This is something we've been working at. We're passionate about this, and we'd like to have a nice splash with this. Any additional questions? I know I've talked to some of the councilors over the last week, and I appreciate you guys making yourself available for this. But
I have a point of order. The motion is to refer back to committee, and I think the discussion should be germane to the motion, not pro or anti-dog park. I think what we should be addressing here is the motion to refer it or not. I appreciate your suggestion that we do continue to refer this, but I think that should limit our discussion. I think that because we have a motion to refer, that does not mean we are acting for or against this dog park. I think what we're acting here on now is to refer it back to committee, yes or no. And I think that should be the question, and that should be the discussion.
I agree with that. Out of respect to the folks that are here tonight, it was suggested we may or may not allow discussion. I recognize that referral does not a call for or allow discussion, but the chair does have that opportunity to allow it. So I'd like to have the opportunity for the folks here to be brief on it, or we can ask them to come to the committee before the committee to voice.
It's not going to committee though.
I'm sorry?
It's going to the department.
We're not asking to go to committee.
It's going to the park. It's going to planning and
going
parks.
back for consideration.
Yep. But if can I speak?
Go ahead.
Just and Councilor Finzel, I respect your discussion on that, but this is a two-part motion. One is to refer, but also the other part is to approve this within the city limits. And yes, it is. Yes.
Within the city limits.
Within the city limits. So, and granted, the presentation is geared towards a specific area because that's what it was originated at. I think we have to be conscious of a two-part motion here.
Let me ask the question of the public, being that it's being referred back to the Park and Rec Department for further discussion, consideration, and input. Does anybody still want to speak here tonight on behalf of the issue? Or do you wish to wait to go before the department at a meeting for discussion?
Well, Mayor, I think it would be wise for the council to hear their remarks, but we're going to bring it back in a month to this body.
Correct.
The Park and Rec Commission has already taken up the matter.
Yes, I understand that, but I think the people, what avenue will the people have to discuss and give further input before a month from now?
Well, they can call me, Mayor, or they can call Jason, too. And I was at last week's meeting.
Right.
And I'm here tonight listening.
Okay. Councilor Mazzolio.
As long as the presentation is over, I don't think it would take a lot of time to have a few people go up there and give them the 3 minutes to speak. I'd be in favor for it. It's either now or it's going to be at the next meeting, so let's hear a few people speak now. They've came here, they want to be heard, so that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I'll ask the people in the audience, do you prefer, does anybody have a burning issue to bring forward tonight, or would you be comfortable waiting till the next council meeting, and in the meantime, talking to the city planner or the park and rec director? Yes, sir.
The main thing would be that
You state your name and address to the microphone, please.
John Mannion at 4006 Overlook Lane. I own the house closest to the park there. The main thing is here that nobody told us they were going to have this meeting. They kind of waited till the last minute. The people in Billings Park, they didn't send out any information, didn't tell us, give us enough time for this thing. So again, they're trying to say, well, this thing's all cut and dried, and all the people think it's real nice. Well, I'm not here to go through all these things. I think everybody got a letter from Al Horvath tonight, I believe, and he explained things very well. It makes things awful rosy the way they're talking here. I don't have a thing like this, but Creek Park, I was at Creek Park, and that has no houses around it. It's got trees around there. This park will have no trees. When the sun shines, everybody knows what happened when dogs are in the park. They can't say it's not going to bark. It's not if anybody's going to watch this thing. They say they're going to clean it up twice a year. They better clean it up twice, 3 times a week. I can't believe there isn't any spots in the city that we can't have a park, a dog park. Nobody here has a problem with dog parks, none. The problem is we have people, residents, all the way around this park. We have a church on one side. We have residents on the other side. We have new residents behind Royalton Manor, and we have our own residents close to 4006 Overlook Lane. So I do believe, like I said, I'm not going to run the rampant here tonight. They do have a nice letter from Al Horvath. We can't believe that there isn't some other place in the city besides a residential area for this park. If they don't think from 5:30 until 10:30, they must not know the seasons of it's dark sometimes at 5:30, sometimes it's light 5:30, sometimes it's dark at 6, sometimes it's light till 10 o'clock. My house, they have 4 special needs kids that need to get up at 7:30. They go to bed at 8:30. No in between. Summer, winter, fall. That's all there is to it. Like I said, I'm not going to make a long speech here, but I think everybody should be getting a letter in all these neighborhoods and tell them what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. We don't want this thing just to go right through without anybody knowing what's going on in the neighborhood. And that's what they try to do to us. Not many people were at the meeting, maybe 4 or 5, but they weren't very happy, as they know. It's one of the most beautiful spots in Superior. They say you can have more houses, for sure. That's continuous taxes money to Superior. That's why we wanted to go back to the committee. None of us want this thing. This thing is larger than a football field. She said it was 440 by 220.
Sir, if you could wrap up your comments. We're
okay,
past
no
the
problem.
3-minute mark.
Okay. So anyway, we all here would just like to have enough time to look at everything that's going on, talk to the other people that we have in the area. We all do not want this thing because you can talk about smell, you can talk about this, you can talk about that. But in the long run, that's what it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak or hold it till the next meeting? Yes, ma'am.
Just one quick comment. My name is Lynn Halter. I live at 1612 Iowa. I'll go on the record as saying I run my dogs through that area every morning. I have a 90-pound Dutch Shepherd and a 80-pound Lab Boxer mix who poop a lot. and I'm well used to cleaning up after them. I will volunteer to clean up at least 3 days a week at the dog park.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Susan Horvath, 6 Belknap Shores. My husband's Al, and he is not able to be here tonight. He has another meeting down at the library that he's in charge of, so he could not be here. We just feel that this is going way too fast. Now it's going to go to the next meeting, and again, you want to have a decision made by next meeting. The JCs apparently are not going to do any, putting up any fence, doing anything until spring. We don't understand what the huge hurry is here. We're not sure what kind of background these folks at the JCs say. They've looked at all the sites around town, and these are the best ones they can pick out. What kind of background do these folks have to make that kind of decision for the citizens of our city? That they should be looking at the maps and deciding which parts of our cities are the parts of our city is the best to have this dog park, and why in a beautiful residential area and a beautiful green space would you put a dog park? You're referring to Keene Creek in Duluth, which is located underneath the freeway. It's all buffered by the freeway on top of it, and it has at least a block of trees and surrounding it with homes that are at least a block away. It is nothing like Billings Park in this area. That area is utilized by people all the time. Maybe there's not scheduled football games going on, but it is a beautiful open green space. People go there and fly kites. The kids in the neighborhood play and run there. To put a fence and a dog park for all the residents to listen to dogs barking, to have porta potties. We just don't feel this has been thought out at all, and we have had absolutely no participation in this, knowledge of it, until last Wednesday night. And for you to bring it to council, I appreciate you bringing it to council again for the next meeting, but I also hear that you want a decision to be made by next meeting and it for it to be voted on. Why? Maybe we all need to get together and sit down and find a better place in our city. There apparently is land out by the fairgrounds that could be looked into. I mean, give people some time to figure out what's best for everyone in our city. This is a huge decision for all the people in our city to have this dog park. And it's not an issue that we don't need a dog park.
Out of time.
Oh, well, anyway, I appreciate you hearing me out, but we would like to be participants in this. We'd like to, if you want people to help you find a spot, I mean, why not look into some support from businesses in town, from ideas from people who might have some other spots. I mean, this is going way too fast, and we are requesting some time on this, not just the next meeting.
Again, a point of order.
Thank you.
We have an agenda item called Business by Public. Isn't that the appropriate place for this discussion?
Yes. Let's call for the motion. There's a motion and second on the floor, two-part motion to refer back to Park and Rec, as well as to consideration of the...
Sorry, Bruce.
What? Please, what?
Sorry, Bruce. I just want to clarify, is it going to be the next meeting, or is it going to be the second meeting in November? Second meeting? That would be preferable. Sorry, Mayor.
That's fine. And let me state one more thing. We're not saying there's going to be a motion of any sort at the next meeting. It's going to be brought back for other discussion. I'm sorry, Counselor. We'll call for the motion.
I just want to make a couple comments here when I listen to this. I live a block away from this, and I can't tell you, all the people that live around me are excited to have this there. I've had people, I'm walking my dog down 21st Street and yelling out their car, "Get us our dog park." I mean, it's very popular. It's all positive out there. So I don't know where all these people are coming from that are against that. The majority of people I've talked to are very much in favor of it. A lot of the people right now are using the hockey, where the hockey rink is, and running their dogs inside of there. But very much people in the district out there are very much in favor.
Before I call for the motion, I apologize, Councillor Finsland, for not taking that point of order. All in favor of referral as stated by the motion maker signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Item 10.1 is a resolution introduced by the Common Council designating certain banks and investment firms as depositories for the City of Superior.
What is the pleasure? For the motion and second discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Item 11.1 is an ordinance introduced by the City Attorney amending Chapter 54, false alarms, by adding a $50 charge for each additional false alarm after 5 or more false alarms in a calendar year.
Heard the motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The motion is carried.
Item 11.2 is an ordinance introduced by the City Attorney amending Chapter 86 to include Section 86-27, panhandling prohibited in specified areas. We do have one person signed up to speak to that issue.
What is the pleasure? It's heard the motion and second to approve. Discussion? Member of the audience?
Julia Johnson.
Good evening, councilors. I'll keep this short. In regards to the proposed motion about panhandling, I live at 2005 Billings Park Avenue, or not Billings Park, sorry, Lackawanna Avenue, in support of the dog park. I'd like to draw attention to the local safety net for people who are at risk of being homeless or in poverty in Superior. I work at an information and referral service for health and social services that takes calls from these people in these situations. Their options here are limited to a handful of agencies that almost never have funding to help them into stable housing, treatment, or aid with bills. Disallowing panhandling will not change the fact that there are very, very few resources for these people who need help in our city. Banning it in particular areas in the city will not stop people who are desperate and need from asking money from strangers, food, or other help. This will only create a burden in the city taxpayers as tickets are issued to people who are unable to pay for them. And then jails or prisons are used to punish people who do not pay for these tickets. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bender.
Yes, I would ask the chief to speak to this because this isn't not allowing panhandling. It's just limiting where it can be done as far as distance from the doors of certain businesses. But Chief, would you please speak to that?
Certainly, thank you. Officers in our department have come to me and said, we're fielding far more calls on panhandlers who are creating disturbance. We get calls from members of the public saying there's people panhandling on the side of the road, near businesses that we frequent. What can you do about them? And the answer we've had is nothing. It's not unlawful to panhandle. This ordinance does not make it unlawful to panhandle. It restricts the areas they can do that. Looking at some of the justice websites on recommendations on this, making a strict prohibition on panhandling kind of breaches a First Amendment right that you could hold a sign, you can gather where you want to gather. The recommendation from the COPS office is to restrict the areas in the way that we've prescribed. And we looked at the city of Madison as an example, near the state capitol, near their prime business district. They have similar restrictions, and they define them by listing a number of streets, which gets to be a really long list. And as new businesses go into place, you'd have to change the ordinance to say, and we meant also this road, because it's part of the business district. The ordinance as proposed, I think, allows panhandling. It restricts where it can be done so that those businesses aren't impacted, and the public who want to access those businesses don't feel in any way intimidated. If they want to give money to people who are panhandling elsewhere, or they want to support those public service agencies that would help people who need that help, they can still do so. I think the ordinance meets our needs, which without strictly prohibiting somebody being able to ask for help when they need it.
What would the what would the penalty be if a person is panhandling, is homeless, he doesn't have any money? What's the consequence?
Give him lodging.
Huh?
Give him lodging.
Well, we don't
Yeah,
have
right,
a
that's
penalty in
probably it.
there right now, but there's a catch-all provision in the code that caps penalties of any ordinance violation that isn't already defined with the penalty at $1,000. So I'm guessing our officers and their use of discretion will come up with something far, far short of the maximum. It's not common that we see a charge that high. Disorderly conduct now is a $238 forfeiture. I would expect something in that neighborhood.
Another question for the chief. Lately, I've seen one particular person over by the senior center on Tower Avenue. So would a place like that be a designated area where you could not panhandle? Or would it be just grocery stores or taverns or restaurants?
The ordinance proposed says within 300 feet of any business open for operation. So near the senior center would be near a number of businesses, so
Right,
that area
yeah.
would be prohibited.
Yeah, I did think about the restaurant across the street.
Any further discussion? Counselor Olson.
Just on a light note, what about them fill the boot dudes?
Recognized charitable organizations
favor.
are not addressed by this ordinance.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Is there any further business to come before this
Wait.
body?
Oh, yeah, I have to read one more ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
11.3 is an ordinance introduced by the Finance Committee amending City Code Chapter 58 by implementing a $3.50 monthly recycling fee beginning November 1st, 2014.
For the second, motion second, I should say, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Call the roll, please.
Yes. Counselor Finsland. Counselor Herrick.
Yes.
Counselor Dennis Dahlbeck.
Aye.
Counselor Esther Dahlbeck.
No.
Counselor Dan Olson.
No.
Counselor Fennessy.
Aye.
Counselor Bender.
No.
Counselor Sweeney.
Yes.
Counselor McDonald.
Yes.
Counselor Mazzolia.
Yes.
7-3.
Motion carried. Any further business to come before this body? For the motion and second to adjourn, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
I like your stuff.
I just don't get it.